Paltrocast. How's your day going aside from having to talk to American media? Otherwise, good?
Otherwise, very good. Thank you.
Well, glad to hear that. Now, we were connected because my first time is a new project, or at least it's new to us, the public. You filmed it a while ago. How did you get involved with my first time?
I got involved with my first time by them reaching out to me as one of the Australian queer creatives that they wanted to hear more about. And yeah, it was a big honor, to be honest, because there were some really cool, prominent folks that I look up to, including drag queens from Drag Race Down Under
Sure.
and some activists from when gay rights were first sort of brought up in Australia as well.
Right. Queen Kong, Wesley, etc. Did you know any of those folks before winding up involved in this project?
I knew of them more than I know them now because through watching the series, you do get to know everyone on such a
Sure.
kind of intimate level. So, yeah, I didn't know them as intimately.
So for a 20-minute episode, obviously they filmed you for more than 20 minutes. Any idea how many days or weeks you were filmed for to get it down to that great 20-minute span?
I was there for a whole day, just answering question after question between tears because the experience was a little bit emotional at some point when we were sort of talking about our first times of things that I hadn't thought about for, 10 plus years. So there were lots of breaks, but yeah, they were filming for a few weeks, I think.
Got it. Now, when they introduce you, they say, oh, comedian, writer, content creator. How do you like to be thought of profession wise? Is there an easy term for it?
I think creator kind of, creative is sort of an umbrella term that does a good job at describing everything else I do. So I like that one.
When I was a kid back in the Stone Age, when you were a comedian, you were pretty much just a comedian. Maybe you would eventually get adapted, have your story adapted into a sitcom that you were the star of, but you were a comedian. And these days, you could be a comedian and an actor and a screenwriter, etc. When you set out to be a stand-up, was that the end game for you?
Yes, so when I started stand up for the first time at an open mic in like 2017, I'd never done acting or anything like that, and I didn't really think that was for me. And I still haven't done a lot of acting besides voice acting to this day. And I do still spend a lot of time on stage. I'm doing the Melbourne Comedy Festival
Mm-hmm.
starting in 2 weeks, so I have like 10 shows coming up there. And you're absolutely right that we live in this world where you have to wear multiple hats because people can only come to so many gigs and they want to see you do other things. And I think it's nice as well because you do get to lean into different types of creativity without being pigeonholed as only doing stand up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah.
When did you start to see the American market open up? And the reason that I'm asking that is when I was a kid, our Australian knowledge, the general person would know, okay, Silverchair, In Excess, Crocodile Dundee, and that's really all they would know. But now, obviously, Jim Jeffries is an arena headlining comic and Fisk is a top 10 show on Netflix. So, in other words, just because it's an Australian show doesn't mean it doesn't get seen everywhere in the world. When did you start to notice that it wasn't anything different being Australian versus any other nationality?
I think the internet made a big difference to that because before you'd have to wait for a network to pick up a show from another country and then you'd have to come across it and watch it and
Mhm.
somebody might have to recommend it to you while today you can just be on Instagram or Twitter or TikTok and somebody will recommend a show for you from a different country that matches your exact taste. And I am really grateful for the internet for introducing me to so many great people, shows, music that I wouldn't have come across otherwise from all corners of the world. and in the same vein, also reaching an audience myself that otherwise, I would be limited to people in Melbourne, but now I have connections with, folks all over the place.
Being Melbourne based, but creating for the world, does that affect your sleep habits? For example, do you know, okay, the people that are primarily watching me are awake at this time, or do you just not think about that at all?
I try not to think about it because then I spiral and I'm like, oh well, I have to like post at this exact time. And then if I miss it, then I won't post at all, so nobody sees it. So
Yeah, good that you're not thinking about that. So you mentioned the Melbourne Comedy Festival, and then of course we're talking about my first time. Is there anything else coming up that we're allowed to know about that we should be looking for you on or around or going towards?
Um, unfortunately not at the moment, but my first time is out on YouTube now, and there are, I think, episodes that haven't come out yet. They're releasing them bit by bit on different topics every so often, and I will be in the Melbourne Comedy Festival opening in 2 weeks. And who knows, maybe next year I'll be somewhere else. I definitely want to come to the States and Canada, um, but it's sort of a long-term thing.
So, two questions or topics, and then I'll let you go and get your day started. And the first one is sometimes comedians, their whole life is comedy, where they're seeing other comics and always working on their material in their off time. And then other comics go, if I'm not working, I'm living my life. What's your life like when you're not creating content and not expected to create content?
I try to take time off thinking of everything as content. I had a funny incident while driving yesterday, and I was like, I should put that in the show. So there are definitely moments when it has to kind of come from real life into the content and into the comedy, because those moments are relatable and everyday stuff is relatable to everyday people. But also, if somebody's telling me a secret, if somebody's telling me their bad breakup story, that will not make it into the content and it will not be on TikTok. It's private between us, it's friends, and my lips are sealed.
Got it. So you are one of the few trustworthy comedians. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Okay. And actually related to that, how do you decompress? Because there is such a performance high when you come off stage. It's not like you can just go and sit down and go to sleep. I find it's a couple of hours after you come off stage. How do you come down naturally and in a healthy way and decompress to keep yourself sharp?
I drive home. On the drive, I'm listening to some relaxing music. If it was a bad gig, I might be screaming along to the lyrics really loud. And then I come home, I have a cup of tea, I cuddle the dog, and try to not be on my phone so much. And yeah, it does take me, like, just like you, a few hours to decompress, but I try to like make it shorter by just having magnesium, having my sleepy time tea, turning off the big lights, and yeah.
And the last question here, what is some of that shout along music? Because the old adage is all comedians want to be musicians, all musicians want to be comedians.
You're right. I don't have the voice for proper singing, obviously, being a comedian, but sometimes it's like, a Kelly Clarkson, um, it could be, I mean, this is not screaming along music, but Anderson Paak, Frank Ocean, Alicia Keys. Yeah.
Good taste. Well, thank you for your time. Looking forward to whatever's coming next. And congratulations on my first time. It's really interesting when your fans and other people get to know the real you aside from the art. So, congratulations on the bravery related to that.
Thanks, Darren. Thank you for taking the time.
Paltrocast.